to where today could be the defining rounds to decide who wins this.
And you know, how can you not just as a fan of PUBG, competitive PUBG, how can you not appreciate the Gas Cans play style and how they play and how they approach the game, and just what they've been able to accomplish here in such a short time with you know, going back to the beginning of PCS3 group stages, they brought on 2 new players. You know, it's not really been that long since, you know, Honey Badger and Voxic, you know, obviously leaving 303, bringing on Oldless and Nikos. Oldless found his groove very quickly towards the middle round parts of the group stages. Nikos now basically on track with everybody else. So, you know, I said this yesterday. I was expecting Honey Badger and the Gas Cans to do great things. They're just popping off way faster than I thought that they would.
Well, they're also kind of creating their own independent meta. Whenever we look at how Gas Cans plays towards the later stages of the game, it's very different than a lot of the other teams. A lot more aggressive and in your face. We usually see like a more defensive firing line kind of setup. That's what we've seen from teams like Soniqs, Shoot to Kill, Oath to a certain degree as well. Oath a little bit more on the aggressive side of that. But now as we're looking, we got the overall leaderboard that's pretty close now. And again, a lot of that due to the work that Oath put in yesterday. Or do you think that they're going to be able to continue their trend moving into today of just carrying over that momentum that they were just building up slowly and steadily more and more throughout yesterday's matches?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the door is open for Oath to really kind of get some things accomplished here. If you go back to yesterday and you even look at the individual games, as I try to pull that up, they actually had a good performance on both maps, right? It wasn't just great stuff on Miramar, stuff on Erangel, as we see that nice northeastern circle. I know you love it, but yeah, they got the 27-point win on Miramar to start things off. They also got the second place 10 kill finish on Erangel on the final match of the day. So they're finding success across both maps, which is a good indicator if you're going into this final game, if you're trying to get more and more points.
Well, good indicators abound if you were a northeastern team this time around. Oath inside the circle, but back over next to Picado, where we were looking at Soniqs just a second ago. Picado itself not inside the circle. So whenever we look at this, really it's going to be Zenith, maybe T8 that are in good positions. One Eye is way up towards the north and do have some control that they can maybe take based off of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them move their way back down south. And I know, at this point, if you've been watching PUBG for a long time, guys, you get tired of hearing me say it, but this is the type of circle I want. When we're looking at the last couple of matches, I don't want center circles. I want to see teams overcome insurmountable odds consistently and prove that they're the best. So hard shifting circles like this off of the first circle, maybe even the second one, will give us an idea on how these teams approach it and prove that they need to walk away today as the winners without a shadow of a doubt.
I want to definitely keep eyes on Soniqs in this circle. This is a circle that they've historically had some issues with in the early games sometimes, just because they like to leave Picado early, obviously, and head up that road, kind of leading towards Hacienda, towards STK. Now, if STK gets out of there quickly enough, which it looks like they should, looks like Soniqs should avoid STK, but we've also seen times where Veritas has come down early and kind of caught out Soniqs in that little compound just on the road, just south of Hacienda. They often stop there to do a little bit of scouting, and they might run into some fire from Oath, some fire from Veritas. It really just depends. So keep your eye on Soniqs, see how quickly they get out of there. And I got to be honest, we're 3.5 minutes in already, and they haven't left yet. I'm a little bit nervous for them.
Well, that always kind of is Soniqs' motto. They have no fear in taking fights. The issue comes into play with a circle like this. Sometimes you have to go through the gauntlet. You have to go through several different teams that might get in position ahead of you. So with this, you can see a couple of teams like Shoot to Kill who are already inside the circle, making their way back over towards the east. Everybody knows they drop down back over next to Hacienda, but they are encroaching back over into the direction of where T8 is at. T8 doesn't really have a controlled vector point that they're kind of playing off of right now. And instead, it looks like Shoot to Kill should quite easily, well, depending on how the driving goes, quite easily get into position on where they're wanting to set up position at. The thing that they need to be careful of is T8 is approaching from the other side, as well as Zenith from that high ground positioning. It looks like Lush might be making his way back over. I don't know if he's gotten vision on where Alo's at, and this is going to be a quick spray and pickup, making First Blood go over to Shoot to Kill.
Easy peasy, and that's all 100% having to do with the fact that STK got their looting done quickly and started their rotation early. They didn't hang out in those warehouses just to the south of Hacienda like they usually do, trying to see if they can spot out Veritas or Soniqs. This time, they instead focused primarily on their own rotation, getting into that 2-2 split in that canyon very, very early. Because of that, free kill from T8.
A lot of teams now making their way back over towards the east. You can see Soniqs just going to go ahead and cut a lot right along the crater area. We got Bandita just over towards their direction. But we also have a couple other teams that are making their way back over towards the east. Notably, where we were just looking at a second ago, you can see that One Eye Open has also been making their way back down from the northern position to encroach back over next to T8. But really, and whenever you see the circle a lot, people like to go next to that road over next to Impala and just kind of make their way up towards the north. It's a fairly safe path, as not a lot of people kind of move into those positions too early at this stage. Now, that being said, we have Illusion, Gas Cans now finally starting to make their move, Hard Shifts, Fabled, and Dodge, who still haven't really even started the moving process to make their way over towards Circle. Rumblers are, but it should be noted, one of the members from Rumblers, Gaxi, is very separated away from the rest of his team.
Yeah, maybe taking a long way around over towards Los Higos. Not sure what happened there, but wanted to point out that Soniqs did not take that normal rotation that they usually do up to Hacienda. Instead, they take a little bit longer to get their looting done. They head over towards La Bandita, taking a more southerly route and, avoiding some of the early action that they've seen in the past on circles like this. So they now find themselves inside circle, but maybe a little bit south of center from where they normally play. So this is going to be interesting seeing how they approach the rest of this game now that they have Oath and Zenith and all these other teams kind of off to their north here.
The hillside to the west of Azahar looks like it's starting to be a little bit more contested as we go. You can see the Veritas making their way over here. We've got Shoot to Kill that was playing the low ground. We saw them position earlier. Should be noted, Shoot to Kill is also running a 2-2 split from that position right now. One closer towards Azahar and then one closer towards the other side of the road to give a little bit more control over those positionings. Meanwhile, Veritas, you can see playing the hillside up towards the northern position from that, looking back over towards ATC that they might have to contend with. On the other side of these positions is where we're looking at Oath. Remember the fact that Zenith is going to be back over towards their eastern position, but one of the duos from Shoot to Kill is just going to be a little bit over towards the north.
Yeah, the good thing about that STK 2-2 split, though, is it's extremely safe. Like, they are in the middle of the center, dead center of the center. They're in a valley where everybody to their north and south is kind of overlooking them. But for their part, they can kind of sit here and chill for the longest time. I mean, they're just vibing right now. They have nothing really to worry about. Nobody's going to push down into that at this point. So we'll have to see what happens as far as Oath and Zenith goes. They are a little bit close. Duel, meanwhile, have made their way in on this eastern side, east of El Azahar. They are pretty much by themselves right now, but we have seen them get some company joining them from the south, and it looks like that may be where Dodge comes from, so I'll have to keep an eye out there.
Comets is also relatively close to position, but instead of going way up further towards the northeast, instead opting into kind of the Badlands area that's south of Azahar. Azahar, you guys know, whenever you're playing this, there's a lot of very just awkward positionals that kind of come into play as you're looking through here. Specifically, the terrain is very hilly, for lack of a better term. There's a lot of little trenches that kind of make up different paths that you can move through. Gas Cans, though, getting a little bit more aggressive. Remember, they were one of the later teams that came into this, so don't have a lot of information to work with just yet, but are starting to encroach back along the line where we can see Veritas setting up their defensive positioning at.
That's the thing, isn't it? I think they are fully aware that Veritas is in there. I think they're trying to figure out if they've got a guy singled out in Michael inside that compound, and it may have actually figure this out. You can see Honey Badger going for the long flank. He's still looking over there, seeing what he can spot out. And it looks like the rest of the boys are going to start making their way in. And you can see Michael all by himself. Keenan and Jazza on the other side of the road haven't even kind of looked over in this direction just yet. So we'll see if Michael gets spotted out. He does, and he goes down immediately. Good shooting by Voxic.
That was an easy pickup based off of positioning. You can see just completely unaware, but retaliation shot's going to come out from Jazza at range. Gets dropped back over towards Nikos, but Nikos should be able to get rezzed. You see the Gas Can's playing this a little bit more controlled. They don't want to go too aggressive yet. They don't know where all the members of Veritas are. But being shot down from that very far angle and seeing that inside the kill feed, they're going to be aware that it's a little bit more separated out. And a hard northern shift going to go ahead and kick this off. These teams that are playing back along the position that we're at right now. Shoot to Kill. Look at that 2-2 split we were talking about beforehand, just barely being in position. That means teams like Oath, Rumblers, Soniqs. We have Hard Shifts and Comets all going to have to make the move, as well as Dodge back over towards their eastern position. A lot of teams are very quickly hopping into vehicles, The problem is most of these teams are just cutting directly north and are going to hit a firm defensive line. Nobody's really opting into circling around and trying to take up next to Tierra Blanca.
It looks like T8 going to try to send it already. They're already getting shot at from one eye, as you said, though. Everybody coming in from the south side except for Illusion, making that long wrap around to the north. Now, we have seen circles and kind of around this area, this Tierra Blanca Cruz de Valle area before, but not necessarily this far to the south and this far to the east. So we'll see where these teams decide to post up. But I tell you who does usually do well in circles like this is Duel and Oath. And Soniqs has also made it to the late game playing here in the past as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on all of them because they are all coming in from this southern edge and they're already starting to run into each other.
Soniqs opted into playing just right along the edge. Don't want to overextend. Just so you guys are aware, we do have a position right next to Campo Militar that is in position. Rumbler's now taking a couple of... going to go ahead and lose Los inside of rotation right now. Got ATC that's kind of holding down next to Crudaval. But really the eastern corridor is getting very packed. When we look at the map for a second, there are a lot of teams that went ahead and hit that coastal road and are using that as an opportunity to try to cut a path up into position. The problem is there are a ton of teams opting into a similar strategy, so we'll have to see if they start bumping into each other. Rumbler's now continuing their trek back over towards the north. Not a lot of teams to really contend with, just really Illusion that's back over towards the northwest of their position. You can see a couple of shots now coming back over towards Waldo. But this is a very, I guess, segmented section of the map. It is very far towards the north. Everybody else is still clinging towards center position right now, just hoping the fact that maybe they won't see another hard shift location and have to rotate yet again. Meanwhile, a couple other teams just kind of forced into edge location based off of so many teams having vision on the edges of the circle.
As you said, a lot of teams starting to run into each other on the eastern corridor. This is going to be the first. Comets and Dodge, and to an extent, Duel now as well, all right on top of each other. Meanwhile, Oath coming up over the top of STK. STK has that compound, so they should remain safe for the time being. I doubt Oath is going to want to push into it at this point when they can just kind of take this high ground position overlooking it. But they might creep down there, and if they get a couple of knocks here, they might actually push. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
ATC crest up over the hillside there. Marslek trying to get a little bit more vision. Did spot out one of the members for VTS. Take them down with a quick flush as well. Pretty close towards center location, though. Veritas has to be a little bit more cautious. There's a couple more teams who might start encroaching on angles to try to start playing around with positioning. Any trolls in chat know the fact that they do have a good position to play from, but they have to be a little bit more cautious as a couple more teams are starting to make approaches from different angles back behind them, most notably Gas Cans and One Eye Open, potentially finding an angle. But this is what I wanted to look at. We got the Hardships and Fable fight right along the edge in the southeastern area.
Hardships opened it up with a knock on the rip, but immediately traded back as Haxetti ran over Luke in the middle of the street. And you can see the Hardships have a nice little split here, but Hella is in the process of getting a hella good flank on top of Hardships here, but it looks like they've been spotted out.
Oh, the zone's coming in right back behind them. Ship's going to go back down towards the south, so those that are favoring towards the center are going to have a little bit to work with. You can see that Duel and Soniqs are starting to bump into each other. Hardships now find themselves not inside the safe zone, with Fable trying to find some type of approach. Quick shots coming out from both sides of this as Lobes is going to get a little bit of an angle back over towards Haxetti. But Chuba's gone down as well. Rip just walks right up the hillside, takes down Lobes. Jasank now finding himself in a very difficult position, trying to figure out if he needs to firmly retreat, take a defensive point, or maybe just entirely leave this position. He knows he's not inside the safe zone, so it looks like he's trying to get as much space, using the longhouse to try to buy more distance and a safe corridor to try to get away from this, and maybe making his eyes back over towards another vehicle. Meanwhile, on the other side of this, you can see it's going to be Duel posting up right next to Soniqs. A little bit of an angle coming through. Molotov's going to come out, force Wooly to reposition. Pentalol goes down, and this is turning up to be Soniqs very quickly. 2 downs and a flush. Just absolutely decimate the other side with Duel, who have to be extremely careful. Now just playing along the hillside. They only have 2 members up and available, and Soniqs knows exactly where they are.
Duel a little bit split up when they was trying to get as much information as they can. You can see the terrain that they're working with. They were trying to take high grounds on all these hills, see whatever was coming, but they missed the 4-man squad of Soniqs hard crashing onto him. Now you can see H-Win still in a little bit of difficulty off to the south, very, very low, but he should be able to get himself healed back up again and get back in. We'll just have to see if Linksy has spotted him out. Meanwhile, Illusion, having come in from that northern side, they're running through Rumblers. Looks like they were right between some of the members of Rumblers and coming up on Veritas here. Veritas also have lost 2 early and during this rotation process, so it's just down to Jazz and Dietrich for them.
Looks like finally getting a touch of separation. You can see that Rip's still playing back along that area, seeing maybe he can spot out the last remaining member of Hardships. But wouldn't be surprised if we see Fable just kind of creep forward, get into position.
J-Sank actually got the res onto Chubba, so Hardship's back up to 2. I'm amazed that J-Sank was able to pull that off, considering all of Fabled was looking for him.
Well, we've seen a little bit with this bouncing circle going north and then back down south, that the yo-yo effect is kind of stretched some of these players a little bit thin. Whenever we're going back down near Azahar, where we were looking at just a second ago, a lot of teams now back over towards the Crew de Voltaire Bronco location. That's where we're seeing a lot of the fighting. So Fabled kind of creeping in this last second, not going to be too punished. They are taking a couple of shots back over towards the north at Comets, and the remnants of Duel, who are pretty close to this location as well. Meanwhile, Rumbler's getting into a little bit of a skirmish with Illusion. Quick pickup coming out of that one, having to step back down the hillside. Top Dog retreating from position. It looks like Icy Flex might be flanking back around this, but look at the positioning starting to come out. Both teams stretching out of the safe zone, very aware of the fact that they could be encroached upon, but the blue is coming in back behind them. McCoy looks back over towards the wrong angle and gets dropped. Now it's just going to be Gaxi and Waldo. Waldo now forced to run outside the blue, and Gaxi's coming up back behind this. Remember, these guys were very separated at the start of the game, so it looks like Gaxi was just trying to encroach back over behind this. Luckily, the new circle does pop pretty close to location, but Gaxi's going to have to use the hillside to try to regroup back over next to Waldo, and Rumblers have already lost 2 of their members and are in a very dangerous position right now.
Well, we'll see what Waldo can pull off here. I'm not sure why Gaxi was so spread away from everybody else and for so long, too. Looks like he will get into the zone just in time before he gets knocked to the blue. Waldo will finish off Woe, and that's going to be Illusion down to 2. But this new circle has popped, and boy, this southwestern side of the circle is about to get real interesting. You've got Oath, SDK, and Gas Cans that are all going to be fighting for the same position.
Well, we kept talking about the yo-yo effect of the circles, and this one continues that process there. A couple of teams that are in good position. You can see that it's going to be shoot to kill. That's kind of keeping an eye back over towards Oath. Guadalajara Gas Cans only at 1 kill. Kind of odd for them. We tend to see them be a little bit more aggressive at the earlier stages, but looks like they're coming in with a little bit more patience this time around. Now, should be noted that Oath looks like they're trying to cut a little bit further of a northeastern advance through this, trying to just get around where we can see shoot to kill playing. So if they move fast enough, they might be able to avoid Gas Cans who are coming in on foot, and it looks like that's just narrowly going to happen as the rest of Oath do hop inside of a vehicle and make a chance to try to regroup with Reload's positioning.
Looks like they'll get away with it as well. Now, Gas Cans, you can still see on vehicles. SDK has heard the sounds of those V8s stretching over the top. So they have not tried to leave their compound just yet, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's a compound on the very, very edge, so you would assume that SDK would want to go somewhere else, but playing it safe for the time being. You can see in the kill feed now, Rumblers also, Waldo finding something here while we check in on ATC, who's got to make their way in, but they've got to make their way in past One Eye. And, well, I guess the last member of Veritas here, D-Treats.
It's getting a little bit messy back over towards the north and the northwest specifically. You can see that One Eye open. We have ATC that are starting to clash right along the edge. Do note the fact that Zenith also has the capabilities to kind of look back over this direction, take a couple of pot shots. Only 1 member, like you were talking about, for Veritas up. Well, let's change that. No members up for Veritas, as they are going to go down in 16th positioning. But we still have Rumblers that are alive with their 2, harassing a lot of what is happening around this position. ATC coming in a little bit slower, more methodical in position. You can see One Eye open, very caught up in watching what's happening around them. They keep hearing this firefights, but it doesn't look like they managed to get a lot of position due to where we can see Zenith playing from. Meanwhile, Guadalajara Gas Can starting to stretch back over towards the north. Not too much further to go, but you can see that most of the circle is going to be north of Azahar. This is kind of an uncommon location. Usually when we're looking around Azahar, it's back over towards the west, or back down towards the south. This has got a lot of open terrain inside of it, and specifically high ground advantage points, where we're also going to be looking at a lot of fields play coming in. Whenever we look at Miramar, high ground combinations with low ground minimal defenses is usually a bloodbath waiting to happen.
Yeah, this is not a great spot for Gascade. It's not a great spot for anybody, really. Oath isn't even that much better off. Now, Fabled, if they decide to stretch out on this and start looking around, they might be able to get good angles on both of these teams if they can do so. Actually, I mean, that ridgeline is... Boy, that's a ridge line right there, isn't it? Oldless gonna try to provide a little bit of support for the Murano there. That's not going to happen, though. Unfortunately, they're losing that car pretty easily. Now, STK, though, you always have to remember, is still at the top of that hill just off to the west. And it looks like they were thinking about creeping up over the top of Gas Cans, but got sent back by a combination of Fabled and Oath. And look at that. At least they're getting circle. Holy moly, what a shift.
Well, Oath, you've got pretty good positioning, and you had to buy it through some aggressive movements, and you're going to get away with it. But Soniqs also holding down the position back over towards the east. Fabled, slowly creeping in, still contending around next to J-Sync. You can see still holding down next to Azahar itself. But Fabled running an aggressive split along that hillside. Now the Yo-Yo flips back down towards the south, and these teams over in the north are going to have to figure out some way to make this work. Oh, that is bad. Reload goes down, trying to creep up and get a little bit more information, and is a combination of shots raining back over towards his positioning. Oath is now being forced to play down inside of this low positioning that they're trying to cling to, and they know that this is a problem, that the longer they stay here, they're going to find themselves with too many angles that are just undefensible. That hillside back behind them giving them a lot of worry. Shoot to kill, feeling a similar problem, going to go ahead and start to send their way right up along the north. But the problem is, you're going to see one eye open coming up back behind him at the exact same time Zenith is making their move. Everybody just jumps out of the car, starting to spray back over towards Zenith, but doesn't get a lot of damage off onto them. It's going to be ATC that's playing the hillside back behind this. As ATC starts to crest up back behind this, they're going to have great vision back into that low ground point that Shoot to Kill is playing from. Zenith also did manage to get a little bit of a foothold back over towards his top, but we can see that it's going to be T8 that's starting to make an aggressive play back over towards Zenith positioning as well. This is starting to turn very problematic for these teams that moved a little bit early and started to bump into each other, as there are just too many angles to try to contend with. And now you can see Shoot to Kill just kind of suffering from that. They don't know where to go. They've got smokes down, but they know they're in a little bit of a dip with near on no cover other than a tree and a couple of vehicles stacked up right next to each other.
Now, while all of this is going on, when we can look at the leaderboard and things that are concerning it, obviously the most important thing, okay, Comet's going to go down to Dodge there as they finally get polished off. Adam, the last one remaining, though, but Soniqs has just been absolutely vibing in this compound all by themselves. Only 2 kills, nobody really around them, but they're still 4 up heading into this the later part of the mid game here, and they have not had to deal with nearly as much nonsense as all these other teams. They haven't had to do with much rotation, so things going fantastic for Soniqs here so far.
The geometry and the math pays off for them, but other teams kind of suffering from the way that the circles have been shifting right now. ATC do have themselves a hillside that they can kind of look at, but they know that they're probably going to have to move soon. They're trying to see if maybe they can get a little bit more harassment based off of it, using a little bit of lips that are coming out from the top of this hillside to see if they can get some damage off.
There it is.
They do have clean angles back over towards Shoot to Kill, going to go ahead and get Civ down from this. But Marsalek, if he plays a little bit down closer, maybe back down towards that tree, he might be able to get up in throwable range. Exactly what I was expecting to see out. Throw does come through. I don't know if the angle is good, but it does connect back over towards Purdy Curdy right as soon as they get the res off. Marsalek now knows that he's got the range and the angle to work with, and Shoot to Kill are in a little bit of trouble. The only bright side onto this is it's going to be T8 that is swooping in back behind ATC from this moment, trying to take a couple of shots back over towards him, and it's going to pull everybody that was looking back over towards Shoot to Kill back on this other angle, but it's going to be a quick feast coming up for ATC as T8 severely regrets making that move over.
I mean, I see what I get what the thought was. They got the opening down. Steezy had the bike, decided to send it to try to maybe get the flush and win the 1v1, but in the end, he just doesn't win it. And now William just trying to stay alive through the smoke. And like you said, that's going to do great things for STK. They're able to get all their reses back up. ATC still has that high ground to work with, but you can see the circle has popped, and they're going to have to move here eventually. But I mean, pretty much everybody here is going to have to move here eventually, right? STK, Zenith, T8, all still outside of this.
SDK is right on the edge of it. They might be able to use a little bit of their hillside, but that would put them terribly close to Zenith, which is what they're trying to avoid at the time. The real problem comes into ATC's movements. They really wanted to remove Shoot to Kill from a position so that way they'd have a clear rotation point from this. Or just seeing if maybe he can connect onto it. Aguila making a little bit more of an aggressive play, trying to get the vehicle back down the hillside. Grenades are going to connect with a little bit of damage, but it's going to be Civ that comes up with a big shot back over towards Marsalek to buy a little bit more time. Aguila did take damage in his rotation while he did get to a position to try to assist his team. He still needs to make his way up the hillside, and Shoot to Kill knows exactly where he is. Can he get any work put out from this point, or is Zenith going to continue to rein in and make any trolls and chats day just more and more problematic? Aguila can't quite seem to find the angle to work with. Molotov's now starting to be thrown out, buying a little bit more time and space for Shoot to Kill, because they know that the longer they can hold out here means the fact that the blue is going to create more and more harassment back over towards ATC. Aguila trying to make his way up the hillside, trying to find the angle, finally managed to step back over towards it. A little bit of assistance going to be coming out from Sharpshot as he does get taken back over towards Uncivil, but really it's just about trying to create the distraction, but it's not going to be enough. ATC just has to make a mad dash across the side of it, repositioning right over next to where Aguila was at, but he gets flushed out. Sharpshot goes down, gonna go ahead and die towards the blue, but can they at least get vengeance back over towards this, throwing down a ton of throwables back that direction. Shoot to Kill goes down in a blaze of glory.
Balefrost picks up 2 kills off of that. Is Oath now finally getting involved, and they're going to come up over the top. Soniqs by himself. Perfect time to strike for Oath right there. And you also, at the end of the day, you had William, who was the unofficial 5th member of ATC, keeping them alive and wiping Zenith, while Zenith was absolutely destroying them on the other side. So Oath managing to come up in a big-time clutch here, but keep in mind, Gas Cans still 4 up. Soniqs still 4 up. Soniqs have 3 kills now. They still have that compound. As we get to the late game, our top 7, 16 alive. A lot of snakes out there, Matrim.
Also, that reposition from Oath bought distance away from Gas Cans.
Oh,
New Circle's going to pop, favor back over towards Soniqs positioning, as well as the last 2 members for the Rumblers, and the last member, I believe, for Fabled right now, but it looks like that's not going to be too long, as Gas Cans running right along that point. It's just going to be a matter of spotting out the rat, and they do. Hexetti goes down, repositioning us back over towards 6 teams alive. Gas Cans should be fairly aware of how Oath repositioned just a second ago, and looked like they might be kind of setting up defenses based off of that. We talked about earlier the high ground versus low ground advantages. Gas Cans is going to have a beautiful positioning if they can manage to keep their numbers up from this point. The big problem that they have to contest with is the fact that Soniqs are going to have vision on this point, as well as Oath shooting back up from that low ground position on the other angle. So it's just a matter of seeing if the fact that Gas Cans can survive the onslaught that's slowly coming their way. Oath now starting to reposition, hop inside of vehicles. Which direction are they going to opt into going to becomes the big question. Are they going to choose to contest back over towards Gas Cans, or just try to send it back along a similar path, maybe get to some safety? Looks like they're going to choose a little bit of both, as Balefrost does manage to find a way to get his vehicle into position. A couple of shots going to ring out, that not connect just quite enough. Finally, Pat Caps goes down, but there's an exchange as Nico goes down as well.
What a shot coming out from these two. It is an absolute clinic in gun mechanics right now. It's down to just snakers, though, as T8 William has come from behind, and he is just snaking everybody. William, being the snake of the day for Tactical 8 here, will make his team into the top 5, get him a couple more kills, but now it's down to the top 4. Gas Cans versus Soniqs. It's got to be, it had to be, Matrim. It had to be this way, didn't it?
And it's slowly encroaching up on that leaderboard as well. We've got a couple of remnants that are kind of hanging out, but this becomes the problem. You can see Gas Cans have been a lot more active inside of a lot of fights. Their helmets, their armor, doing a little bit more rough from positioning. Meanwhile, Soniqs have been in a fairly safe conditional position for quite a while now. Going to have to be curious to see how they're sitting on their overall armor for this last late game fight. Illusion is kind of caught in between them, and let's not forget about Rumblers hanging out off into a position as well. That does kind of have a little bit of a backstab position that they can take back over towards Soniqs at the time. Soniqs know the greatest threat that they face right now is going to be the positioning from Gas Cans, who are slowly starting to move back along this hillside, trying to get a little bit more information and better firing angles to work with. Depending on how we see this next circle shift, that's going to dictate a lot of the combat and how it breaks down. And it does shift away from Soniqs' positioning. The high ground advantage for Gas Cans is going to be very beneficial from this. They just have to be careful to not overpeak.
This is huge. What they need more than anything right now is to not give up any cheap downs here for Gas Can. They do not want to open that door for Soniqs to be able to just drop a whole bunch of smokes out there and make their way out. Well, one player is down and the other two, or another one might be going for a res. That's the last thing Gas Cans need right now, and I think they know it. You can see them sprinting to get in all types of different positions here. Every line of sight that they can get, they want here. But this is going to be really, really tough for the Soniqs to try to make their way out of this. Well, I'm really curious to see how they try to do it here.
Yeah, they're going to have to contest with Gas Cans, but either way they go, they're also going to have to contend with the remnants of the other two teams that are still alive. Sure, that's only a solo apiece for Rumblers and Illusion, but they still have firing angles on what's going to have to be a mobile Soniqs. Now, let's note, there is a little bit of the building that I believe that Shrimsy is in play right now that is inside of Circle, but I don't think that they're going to opt to just cluster down inside of that one complex, because that surrenders too much control of the Circle back over towards Gas Can. See that our solo did get spotted out. Going to go ahead and drop down the Rumblers. Now Illusion's top dog, the last one up, other than the stack teams that we can see that are the 4v4 fight that's just waiting to break out.
I mean, the Soniqs' best play, it really feels like, is playing this ridgeline right where top dog is. But I mean, it kind of
the motorcycle.
We got going on. Really a whole lot they can do unless they can charge and get right up underneath Gas Cans right here. That's maybe the only other better position, but that's going to be a really long stretch here. We'll see how many smokes they've got in the bag.
How much information does Soniqs have? Do they know that the last member for Illusion is hiding from that point? They keep looking back over to where he's at. With this, you can see H1 trying to buy a little bit more time and distraction for his team. But Top Dog's going to start hearing the firefight, be in close range position. Is he going to try to go for some type of play off of it? Shrimzy looking back over towards the gas cans right now, trying to see if he can connect with a headshot. You can see the fact that their armor, their ammo, everything in good position, and they're trying to use those tools towards their advantage. Mine being a little bit more aggressive, stepping right up into the face of gas cans. This is a play taken straight out of gas can's own book. Move aggressively into him, be distracting, start throwing down things. H1 connects onto Oldless. This could start to be a little bit more of a problem for gas cans. They're going to have to opt into choosing if they want to go for this res. Nikos does connect. Run back over towards it, seeing if he's going to go for this res, but Shrimzy's still looking back down the hillside. Neither one wanting to move too aggressive just quite yet. Gas cans know that they have the high ground, and they want to try to abuse this, but slowly and steadily, they're starting to get more control, starting to come through. A little bit of a reposition coming out. Badger back down the low side. Top Dog looks like he's starting to get a little bit more mobile as well. Soniqs could find themselves in a pincered position before they know it. Foxic is going to go ahead and get the last touches over to H1, who's been down for quite a while. But a couple of now tap shots going back and forth as this peak hillside is the key factor for it. You can see Shrimzy's trying to find the angle to work with, but it's just a constant peak battle back and forth. Nobody managing to quite get the advantage just yet. Each team kind of stacking slowly and steadily, becoming a cluster up on top of each other, while slowly and steadily Top Dog just creeps in right back behind the Soniqs. Finally, Tickleton goes for his play, but doesn't go down, managing to make it to the hillside.
Still had a frag grenade in his hand, too. It's not going to find anything. But now Top Dog will strike. He's going to find Nico's trying to cover the low ground. It's a 3v3. Shrimzy and Oldless trade back. It's a 2v2v1, Matcham.
Top Dog made the play back over towards gas cans instead. It's going to be Voxic, the last one up, with a smidgen of life finally going down. Top Dog creeps back along the hillside. Soniqs in a little bit of trouble right now if he chooses to make a more aggressive play. Does peek back over, revealing his position. Looks back down towards Mime, takes a face full of bullets. Back down to 11 life, seeing if maybe he can get some meds, some type of tools to work with. It looks like he's got near on nothing left. Mime moving more aggressive for positioning. Has to be very careful based off of it. The blue right back behind him. Goes for the spray, connects, tries to go for the spin back around, but it is not going to work. Soniqs coming back from yesterday, walking away with this first round victory and 7 kills.